This podcast is brought to you by the Disabled But Not Really Foundation, a local Kansas City nonprofit organization that pushes to instill a physical limitless mindset that breeds courage, confidence, and competence within the disabled community. You can follow and support Disabled But Not Really on social media or go visit their website at disabledbutnotreally.org. Their work and their mission is to really impact communities and make more people understand the benefits of inclusivity. Let's go.
We're live. We're live. Good morning. Happy Sunday, everyone. And this is April Jackson, and I am here with Wesley Hamilton and Royce Andrews Porter. And before I let either of you speak, I want to say happy Father's Day to you two fathers. It is your day, so I want to give honor to where honor is due, right?
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, you're
I'm
welcome.
grateful, you know. Good. First time I heard it today, you know. Thank you so much.
Good way to start.
Thank you for setting the tone for the day, April. Now, nobody else can come across my path without saying Happy Father's Day. I'm going to be cocky. I'm cocky now. Happy Father's Day, too, brother.
You deserve that.
It's a lot of responsibility with it, too. So.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to dive into today. We're going to dive into mindfulness and fatherhood. And, you know, that wasn't even the title per se of what we were going to do today. But when I told Royce, everyone, you know, Royce was referred to us by someone who works at Open Up Now. And she's a healer, sound baths, and does all these amazing things. And she said, you know, she told me about you and how you're so into mindfulness. And then when you said mindfulness and fatherhood are two of my favorite things, I was like, that's it. That's it. We're going to dive into that. So, Wesley, do you have anything to say to the people?
Well, happy Father's Day to all the other fathers out here. You know, I think that today is a day that you should be celebrated. But if you're, as a father, I don't care what your responsibilities or what you're doing, but as a father, you know, that is a responsibility in itself. So you should celebrate yourself daily for the work that you do and the weight that you put on your shoulders, just because of the man that you are and the father that you are and becoming. Yeah, absolutely. So shout out to the fathers there. Shout out to everybody else, because if you don't know, Juneteenth has been probably celebrated in every city all around for this weekend. So shout out to everybody for their Juneteenth celebrations. I've definitely seen them happen in communities that surprised me. Excited that it is being pushed a little bit further over so that others can acknowledge the culture as well. So I do want to acknowledge that, and to all the people that are putting the events on, because even something like that is a lot of pressure as well. So that's what I got for the people this morning. You know.
No, that was good. That was good. I'm glad you brought up Juneteenth, because although it's Wednesday, people are doing stuff this weekend. And I'm laughing because in my suburban community, they had a Juneteenth celebration. I was like, okay.
Yeah. You know, that's progress, though, ain't it?
It is. You know what, Royce? It is progress.
It is progress.
So, everyone, Royce Andrews Porter is on the screen with us, and we are so excited to have some deep dive conversation with him. And Royce, we would love for you to share who you are and what you do. I'm so interested in sensory. I would love for you to share a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Cool. Yeah, I'm Royce Andrews Porter. I'll start with who I am. I'm a man of God. I'm a man of integrity. Somebody who values embodying a deeper truth, you know, and embracing flaws, embracing imperfection, and honoring, you know, your deepest beliefs, you know, in the person that you really want to be. And I think that this world gives us every reason not to do that. And specifically as a father myself, I instill that in my children, that honor your truth before you even honor me, but some about what I do, that's a long list. So my background is in fashion design that turned into interior design.
Wow.
My wife and I got really into real estate investment. And over the last 3 years, I've pivoted into what I know is my calling, which is healing, and transitioning into a therapist and building out sensory. And what that is, it's a collaborative healing studio designed for bodies of color to process trauma. And that trauma can show up as emotional trauma. It can show up as relational trauma. And it can also show up very likely as generational trauma. And just giving people the tools, the language, the modalities to do so in a collaborative way. Because that's something that I've discovered, that it isn't just about being more mindful. It's more about feeling connection. That's where the wound is. So yeah, I hope that answers the question a little bit.
No, that was good. That was good. And I think I really liked how you shared who you were. I thought that was powerful. I think a lot of people don't understand that you're so much more than the things that you do.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the way you just led with that definitely speaks to just who you are. I thought it was interesting, like the interior design.
Yeah.
I knew you could kick out of that. I did too. I was like, ooh, piqued our
Yeah,
interest.
yeah, that was very interesting. So you have a artistic mindset, right? Like, is it built through creativity? Is that kind of what leads you into like a lot of your work and like the things that you? I'm just curious because like, because what you're doing, and even for us to just be on this call today, is just kind of like I'm pivoting into some creativity
Pivot
thing,
away.
creative things, and it's like, okay, it was good to hear. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, do you use that to kind of explore other visions?
For sure. I look at creativity more so through the lens of design. I don't naturally consider myself an artist. I consider myself a designer, which is simply someone who brings solutions to problems. And from that sense, that approach has allowed me to use my creative side, when it comes to investing, when it comes to doing business and applying ways to find revenue streams. But when it comes to healing, it has served me because I have a unique perspective on this space. And I think the creative aspect allows me to just listen for the needs of people and provide a unique solution, provide a way that they can get to know themselves deeper, So the creativity is definitely there, but I look at it as a sophisticated tool, in my tool belt at this point.
Absolutely. Thank you. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I was taking notes. Like, I need to mute myself. I was writing your quote down, Royce. I really appreciate. It's so funny because I'm with my son in New York and fashion, and we've been looking at clothes and all this stuff. So I appreciate hearing how you have this creative background, and even now you're creative. When you bring this, I love this idea of being a designer, bringing solutions to problems. When you create, I don't know, would I call it a sensory experience? Because, the person who works with us, she said she did a sound bath for a group for you. So how do you bring people together in a collective, and what would they experience in sensory?
Yeah. So I guess first I could speak to Ania's experience, right? We have a series in partnership with Soho House called Late Night Tea. And basically what it is, it's a sobriety-based option for going out. And we replace alcohol with tea, and we allow people to experience breath work and things like shadow work and journaling. We'll have an art table set up for people to connect with their inner child. And we take people on a 3-hour journey throughout a Friday or Saturday night, and allow people to just have an environment for connectivity, because that's not really offered, and have live music playing. We'll have musicians actually playing real instruments and just creating a vibe, creating an ambiance. And we'll plant things within the room design-wise for people to engage in deeper conversation with each other. So we'll have cards set up that's asking very personal questions. And the intention is for you to feel safe enough to be vulnerable with a complete stranger and walk out the room with a new relationship. So, the questions can vary, but some of the questions may be, what's your biggest fear and who encouraged you the most to overcome it? Right? Things like that will open someone up to share something honest and then form an authentic connection, form something that serves, both parties, So, yeah.
Where do you bring the people from? Like, how do you gather everyone? Or is it invitation or
It's
word of
invitation?
mouth?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's invitation and word of mouth. I think it's such a unique offering that it's refreshing and people immediately get it. Like, oh, late night tea, this is something I want to experience.
I want to go.
Right.
I'm
Like a
just-
date.
I'm sitting here like tea, I'm thinking like tea, late night, something different, music, man, amazing.
Right.
And on the sensory side of things, so our approach is a dual concept, right? It's a digital application offering live stream and pre-recorded breathwork, meditation, and yoga sessions, and aspects of the digital app allow you to process your emotions in real time, right? So imagine doing a voice note to yourself about your emotional state, and then going through a yoga session, and after that session doing a debrief. Okay, how do I feel now, right? And what has changed, what has shifted, and journaling that, right? So it's features that can allow you to reflect on yourself. But on the physical side, that community, right, that connection. So this is where the late night tea approach comes in. This is where it culminates. So the digital app just enhances the physical experience, and the intention is to have physical spaces all across different continents where pockets of body of color need it the most. So it's a long-term vision, but it's also rooted in cultural embodiment and celebrating our unique contributions in our different ethnic backgrounds, right? So one of the key inspirations of the strategy to have it in different parts of the world is based on this concept of axiology. Are y'all familiar with that? So axiology is a concept that says that each culture has specific cultural and ethnic values, right? So African people have specific ethnic value structures, right? Indigenous people have their own ethnic value structure, right? European people have their own ethnic value structure. So our intention is to design our product in a way that honors that, to where you can embody that culture, So for African people, our axiology is in relationship. So we walk in a room and our value isn't what we got on or what we have or what we do. It's about how I feel about you, so we come in and it's about the connection that we make with each other, and I don't have to know you. I could be walking down the street and know your experience and acknowledge you, but that's night and day to like somebody like a indigenous, axiology, their cultural core value is in harmony with all life, especially the land. So a lot of their traditions and rituals are rooted in harmony with the land. Everything is in connection to each other. And, that's night and day than the European axiology, which is my relationship to object, right? So when I come in the room, you're going to know what I do, what I have, and that's going to inform you of my value, right? So we're designing the project with the product and the experience, knowing these things, right? And allowing people to embody their natural truth in the context of their cultural wounds. So, yeah.
I love that. That sounds like a lot of, at least I know for me, personal perspective, that's kind of deep when you don't probably understand cultural values, right?
Right.
I know like just in majority of Black communities, we don't have values. I think that's probably why there's a lot of trying to do the work that we're doing now in a lot of ways. So how do you find that everyone that you bring in gravitate to the work, or do you find that because there are people that aren't knowledgeable, sometimes it can kind of be a little bit more complex for them to kind of get the understanding of it and know that it is that it's important for them to know, right? It's important for them to understand, because I'm sure you get what I mean. Like people that probably never followed it might not think that it's valuable for them. So how do you work around those individuals, or per se, like I have a program that works with individuals with disabilities, and I kind of use our program as whoever signs up, you're ready, right? Like you're ready for what we're offering. And if you're not, we're going to provide resources until you're ready, because I know what we're going to provide. So I'm like, do you kind of do that, or do you kind of really got practices to guide people in to get comfortable with the work?
Yeah, I think the intention is more so to meet people where they are, and what we've realized is that people lack the language to understand what they're experiencing. So that's been a huge kind of aha moment, is that, okay, it's really in the language, but some people are hip to these things and are motivated to heal. And some people are deep, on their spiritual journey and just want to meet their tribe, so we try to design the experience in a way that everyone feels accepted, but some people might can lean on other people in the room outside of us, you see. So it's a handful of people.
And so I like this because like I'm in Kansas City, but I didn't explore this type of work until I moved to LA. And I got really into like the holistic thing, but it was the environment. Like, I think it was like everywhere you went, whether you was at the beach or if you was just going to a coffee shop, everybody was doing something mindful. I'm like, all right, this is something I gotta, so I started doing breath
You see where we get it from, Wes.
I started doing breath work. Me and April ended up doing some pottery. So I ended up tapping back in and doing that. Like, I did the sound baths and things as well, like before I actually moved out. And again, it was the environment, that really got me comfortable. That once I came back to KC, I'm like, okay, where are these things at? And they're not just within the environment, but they are here, right? And so is environment also important to you? Like, and what does that look like for you?
Yeah. Now, environment is really important. I actually have a really strong relationship with space. Um, I don't know what it is, but my brothers joke about my father having indigenous, native in his side of the family. So I've kind of used that as a muse when it comes to investing in real estate and designing spaces. I love space. So I have a really healthy relationship with it. And adversely, I didn't experience the LA you experienced.
I was up and down Crenshaw. We didn't do that.
I stayed in North Hollywood, man. All right.
Exactly. So that environment was a little bit more hostile. I worked at the Crenshaw Mall for 5 years at Macy's and really learned the value of community. So when it comes to this notion of environment, I have to say that what elderly Black people in the heart of South Central have taught me about community informs how I experience that environment. So it's the who's stewarding that environment is I guess what my point is. Who's stewarding that environment? Because I don't know what it is, but I remember seeing 80-year-old Black women sweeping the sidewalks, on Crenshaw, and if they see you litter, they'll curse you out. Honor our community.
Absolutely.
Whereas others viewed it in a negative way,
Exactly.
but they
So
didn't.
I love that you put that out there because me and April talk about it a lot. And one of the things that I used to say at the earlier conversation was like, if you can't pull up to my grandma's house, it ain't real.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I ain't got to tell you where my grandma stay, but she in the heart of it. And so just like you said, that is where you feel it. And in reality, it's the heart of any community, right? Like, and you will feel that in-depth culture when you find that where the elderly stay, where they are rooted.
Mm-hmm.
Not where they've been pushed out and had to be, but where they are rooted. And the ones that are rooted there, the values, I get it now. Listen, like the values they hold I got it.
And it's funny, Royce, because when you say the Crenshaw Mall, like I've watched the evolution. It used to just be an all outdoor mall and they, rebuilt and did some other things. But my mom, she's like, because I haven't lived there since 2000. I just go back and forth. But when I came, I stayed for quite some time. My mother's like, you need to take this yoga class at the Crenshaw Mall. And so the environment has shifted. And so there's a sister who I really love, and I've been following her for years, was having classes in the middle of the mall. And it was the most beautiful experience. And when we talk about environment and the elders, it's my mother who took me there. And she's like, that woman reminds me of you. And I am a product of Crenshaw. You are a product of that environment. And so it was, I feel like it was gate kept. Like Wesley was in North Hollywood, right? And you're in such survival mode and survival instincts that you don't have time to sit in how you feel, right? And that's what I hear you saying with sensory. You come into a space where you can sit in all your feelings, and that can help you process them. And I think that's a beautiful offering, and one that I don't see many of us having the space and the time and the opportunity to really get into.
Yeah. And also it's interesting that how these sort of environments breed this level of hypervigilance, right? So a popular concept in the wellness space is regulating your nervous system, right? But Black and brown people in underserved areas don't even know what that is because the body isn't convinced that that's a priority. You see, so I just remember how I felt, living in the rolling 60s and seeing broad day shootouts, and I didn't have the wherewithal, the emotional intelligence to even tap in with myself and see how I understood what was going on. It was just, I got to get out the way. I got to find a way out.
Survival.
So the blessing of this work is that it's people from that environment, but it's a whole lot of people who have those environments in their DNA, who had the privilege of not being in survival at all, but are looking for deeper connections to their cultural roots, so it serves in both directions,
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, love it. I mean, when you think about it, it definitely needs to serve in both directions, because there are people that feel like they need to go back or tie themselves to what some people are trying to escape. Um, you know what I mean? And
yeah.
I get it.
That's true.
But that's you said it earlier, like, trying to find you're working to find a solution to a problem. I was literally just having a conversation at a family gathering yesterday. And I was telling one of my younger cousins that they said they wanted to get into philanthropy and like wanted to explore like, human causes and things. And I was like, well, if you find a problem and you create a solution to it, that's your driving force. That's what fuels you, because you are actually trying to create change to an actual issue. I think that the work of trying to find mindfulness into people that have been built on survival mode is something that a lot of people avoid because it is complex. So I think for but you're putting yourself from a personal like experience, a lived experience, and then taking it as an approach of trying to found your own healing. And now going out to go heal others. So when you do these spaces, and you explore invitations, are they, how inclusive are they? Because, of course you might not see, but you probably saw, but I'm in a wheelchair. I got shot 12 years ago. So like for me, the work that I do now and a lot of things is the mindfulness on a level, but I've realized that like, because I am a product of my environment, at a point in my life, and, my circumstances reflect that. But even now that became complex for me to find that rooted healing, like I definitely went through a lot to find it, because it was a layer that most people didn't want to kind of focused on, and that was like the disability added to it. Like, kind of saying like, yeah, I can go through a drive-by, that's relatable. I can like hear this, it was relatable. But to say like, yeah, I actually got shot and this is what happened from that. Now that's like and so I found that a lot of brothers, and this is even something I'm trying to focus more on, they don't have that outlet after that area of placement. And sometimes it's because maybe most people, after you endure an injury, you don't even know if there's places that you can go or environments that you feel that you are included in. And so I'm just thinking that as, I'm learning, but I think that this work just makes so much sense, even for like someone like myself to be able to come in and then maybe shed light. And those stories also help with that work, because then you have an additional product to the circumstance. So it's like, okay, we can all share these views, but then when you have someone or it's like someone that went to prison for something and they come out and they're able to share their story. So you get the width, right?
The empathy. Yeah. I think, well, first off, I just want to honor the fact that you went through that experience, and that, you're this human, you're holding these types of spaces and giving these types of platform for these types of conversations, so they say a pirate always sees another pirate from afar, and I appreciate you and respect that as a man.
That. Type this quote up real fast.
But as far as how inclusive they are, it's very inclusive, so much so that at one of our late night tea sessions that we did for Black History Month. It was this woman who requested better seating because she's 6'4". And she's like, hey, I love this, but y'all just got everyone sitting lower to the ground, and I'm bigger than everyone. But I want to feel a part of the conversation. So we had to make certain adjustments in the design to, to support her needs, and from the disability part of it, my mother found out she was pregnant with me after being sentenced to prison. So she carried me throughout her whole pregnancy term. So I was actually born in there. And when I was born, my right shoulder and my right elbow was broken. So my right arm was broken in 2 places. I say that to say I've gone through life through the lens of having a disability, and I've had to embrace imperfection in a way that a lot of people couldn't understand, but I naturally attune myself to different people's needs because of that. And also growing up in foster care, right? Every single walk of life I had to share a room with, and it was people with different circumstances, different forms of pain, different philosophies of life, different coping mechanisms, so it deepened my humanity in a very real way, and that wasn't by choice. So I had to create a mentality that embraces humanity for what it is, so everything that I do is through that lens.
Yeah. Oh,
I love you, Royce. I'm over here all tearing up and everything. And not tearing up out of pity, but just out of beauty, because
yes.
This is it, right? This is it. And I honor you for sharing that, right? And even you sharing the experience about the 6'4" woman, because my son's 6'4", 6'5", and walking through life with him and seeing life through his lens, like that's real. Like I'm uncomfortable. If any human being is uncomfortable in a space, that's not what you want, especially in a space where you want people to feel like they can open up and just be their true selves.
Right.
And that's amazing. And I was thinking when you were sharing the digital aspect of that sensory experience, Wes, I was thinking about how that's so accessible for many people, right? Even
Absolutely.
if they can't walk into that space, they can experience that space in some way. And I was thinking earlier, like, gosh, that's so thoughtful. Gosh.
No, I loved it. I think all of it, if you ask me, was the part of like you going through the journey of, being, authentically like front row seat, right? Like in adversity and different circumstances. I challenge people that's watching this to do that, right? Like even if you didn't like go through a life journey of it,
right.
in context, when I first got injured and I started doing philanthropy, I knew that I serve individuals with physical disabilities because that's what I resonate with. But I couldn't be very mindful or empathetic if I wasn't aware of other circumstances. And so I took 2 summers and volunteered at a children's hospital, and it really changed everything for me, right? Like it allowed me to understand not only how to serve better, but to include everyone, even from a younger, because sometimes you don't hear a lot about the youth challenges because family, but to be able to be in those moments, and I did a lot of time in the burn unit, so it was a different, but I got to experience, and it allowed me to do more work in communities outside of the one I was serving to understand more. And so because you shared that, I really hope people can understand that even to be more mindful of the work that you're doing and empathetic and inclusive from an authentic approach. We talk about it all the time, like don't make it an afterthought, do it just authentically. You have to be able to experience different things, and sometimes even going in different age groups, go, serve at a elderly home, right? Like go serve there and then go serve at a school. Like see the differences and then see the similarities, right? Like, and start to understand, like eventually what you serve here you serve there. So make sure that you work the in between, right? Like, and so I just really like that you shared that, and I won't, as we talk about and guide people into trying to do work in other communities or be mindful, just go experience it, you know what I mean? And yeah, you experience it, you conversate about it from a different lens.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I love that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, Royce, how do you, as a father, incorporate your creativity and your love of spaces and all that you do?
So that's a real, honor of mine. Um, my wife and I decided maybe 4 or 5 months after we um, got together to create a family. Um, so our daughter, our firstborn, um, was literally born out of us, her and I, sitting down together every evening and visualizing our daughter. And we made that a ritual every night. And my birthday rolled around, and we were pregnant. Uh, and we decided to go through the natural birthing process. We had her at home, worked with a midwife and a doula. Um, and like I said, I grew up in foster care. I didn't get the experience of living with my father or my mother, right? So I was dealing with both the father wound and the mother wound.
Yeah.
So all of it was brand new, and the beauty in that was nothing was modeled for me. So I wasn't reenacting something I saw.
Mm.
So everything was firsthand experience. And now with we have our son. My daughter's 7, my son is 4, and we have created a beautiful structure to honor their emotional landscapes and their needs, and give them a language for communication throughout life. So I know that's a lot, but
No, it's
No, it's
no, not a lot at all.
so
But
I really love this. So one of the things that we've created is something that we call word of the day. So every morning we'll go over a new word and introduce a new idea. It'll be things usually rooted in positivity. So we've talked about character, right? What's character? We talked about integrity. We've talked about accountability, discipline, responsibility. We've talked about communication. We literally have a whiteboard in our kitchen, so I'm looking at it right now. And yesterday's word was entrepreneur. So we kind of break down
awesome.
what does this mean, right? And then what are some examples of it, and how is it embodied? How are these qualities embodied? So we do word of the day every morning. We have something called a family meeting on Saturdays, which is basically like a group therapy session. And in our family structure, it's not a hierarchy. So it's like a circular dynamic where everyone has a voice, from my 4-year-old son to my 7-year-old daughter to my wife to myself. So everyone we make a decision together. And on our family meeting, we go person by person and we discuss our biggest challenge of the week, our highlight of the week, the most special moment, and then what we've been kind of experiencing the last couple of days that we need more support in. That practice has completely changed our communication dynamic in a phenomenal way. And what else? We have family reading. So Monday through Friday, we don't watch any television. We allow the kids to watch cartoons or whatever only on the weekends. And in the evenings during the week, we do what we call family reading. We'll read a book together as a family. I'll read a page, my wife will read a page, things like that. And that has been a source of transformation too. You know, we started off reading The Secret, learned about law of attraction, manifestation together.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful to hear my 3-year-old, you know, say like thoughts are things, you know, and understand these concepts. And right now we're reading a book called Richest Man in Babylon. So they're getting to understand, you know, money management and how to do, you know, how to build a relationship with money. So these are some of the things that we have just to create a healthy structure of accountability and discipline. And in between these things, you know, they have daily chores and things that they check off on the list and hold themselves accountable. And it's my job to nourish that and encourage honesty and welcome mistakes. You know, that room to fail. You know, and allowing them to embrace different experiences and find who they are. You know, it's not up to me as a father to tell you, you know, who you are supposed to be. You know, it's up for me to nourish you and for you to naturally express yourself, you know. So it's humbling every day.
No, absolutely. I love it. So I have a 14-year-old, and I got sole custody of my daughter when she was 2. So this was, and I just been shot too. So, but what really excites me from this conversation, of course, the things that you're doing, I definitely learned later on, but I went through my own levels of growth as well. But I just, yesterday I was at a family gathering, but it was like a baby shower mixed with, and my older cousin, like similar, him and his wife, kind of just the language that you just shared about you and your wife, it kind of sounds very similar to the approach that they're taking with this newborn. And it's beautiful. I think it's very beautiful. So my question is, what led you guys to really set the tone on how you saw yourself as parents? Because like, I know for me, I kind of had to learn, right? Like, in continually learning. And even though I hear that you're learning daily, you definitely had a tone that you wanted to kind of lead with. And like, was it the power of the marriage that kind of allowed that? Or was it like both individual journeys that got you together to say, this is where we want to be?
I think honestly, it was the pain of my past, the hope, you know, for the future, but it was falling in love with meditation. Meditation changed my life, you know, 8 years ago. It completely changed my life. And we started learning about it together and practicing meditation together. And so by the time we became parents, we were on our spiritual journey, and we knew we wanted to root our family in connection to God through meditation. And that's been the foundation, you know, of everything. So, you know, setting the tone, you know, I remember I remember doing meditations, with my daughter in my lap, for her first 9 months of her life. And reading, whatever book, to her, and just kind of creating the environment to be as spiritual as possible. So that's the foundation. And as things have progressed, new things have become a priority on top of that, right? Things like identity, things like communication, things like understanding your emotions and things like that. So I'm constantly tuning into what, the things are. I can tell you right now that my daughter, something that we're working on with her at 7 is understanding her needs, and
That's a
understanding
big one.
the power of her no,
Mm, mm.
and I think there's so much messaging, man, as a parent navigating like entertainment, all of this. It's so many, societal messaging to try to strip,
Oh yeah, I'm like, just say it, like
It's
like,
very challenging to protect them
yeah,
and let them have exposure and experience at the same time. And like you
exactly.
said, recognizing their individuality and the fact that
Yeah,
they are human beings having an experience,
yeah.
and you
I
want to help
definitely,
guide them.
I definitely feel like I've experienced that in a lot of ways. I am some of the practices that I did at parents 14 now, we kind of compromising. But before, like, definitely reading was important. I didn't do TV. Um, when my daughter was at least growing up, before I got her into like technology, we did movies. You know what I mean? Like, I was a big movie person, so I had all the movies based on rating. So I'm like, you ain't watching nothing that's PG-13 till you 13, baby. Like, it was one of those, but it was that I knew what you were watching, and I knew some of the messaging. So it was one of those things I could keep, but then we could read, we could educate. I did focus on, I didn't do like constant words, but I did do integrity, leader, um, and confidence, and had her kind of recite the definitions of it daily. And I was a podcaster. So it's Wow in the World is a kid podcast that I love. I love. I don't know if my daughter loved it, but I loved it. It was good. Every morning I learned something new, and so that was some of the things that, again, for me, as I, like you said, like, you guys went on a journey, and I think I started my journey with my daughter, as already having her there, and I kind of started to give her some of the tools that I was learning because I knew that they were valuable for me. I'm like, if I could listen to a podcast, let me find one for her
Right.
that's teaching or something. If I could do this, then let me, and like food, we're big on talking like food and nutrition and stuff. So the other thing I did was just make sure that we didn't eat out a lot. I cook a lot, and I made it intentional for my daughter to see me fixing meals and showing what it looks like to prepare and know what you're eating, because that is something that alters your mind. And having a disability is like, I get to show you how to change the perspective and paradigm of what people perceive with a person in a wheelchair. So seeing me healthy and doing all these things is different, but as a parent, it motivates you to go above and beyond, right? Like, it motivates you to push yourself to a level because now you're going back and planting that seed. So I'm hoping whoever's watching this as fathers, like, take some of these nuggets. I mean, rather you start it before, start today, or start tomorrow. Like, just empower your children. That's what I hear. Identity. The world is changing, so with your direction ain't really your direction. Honestly, it's just, you got to be open to understanding what your kid want in life, and then and being able to support that.
Yeah.
I learned that every day. I learned from April. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, April and those boys, like, and the way that she supports, whether her son wanted to be TikTok's famous for a while or what, like, but it motivated her and taught her through our conversations too of what she could do, how she can amplify her branding and stuff. And so we can learn something from our kids if we just
Yeah,
support them
yeah.
in the community.
And the older they get, like for you all, I'm on this other journey. My boys are in their 20s, so I have a 20. He'll be 24 next month. I have a 22-year-old and 17-year-old, and watching them be men and being able to learn from them and guide them in a different way. Because at a certain point, you talk about cultural things too. There are things like, I'm a man, mom, don't tell me what to do, and it's like, okay, like how do you navigate that? And it is beautiful to watch. And it's funny, the small things that happen. I remember I teach meditation, yoga. I've been doing it forever. And when they were going through their terrible twos, I call it the terrible 1.5 to the terrible threes. It's just an expression. It's very challenging to express yourself when you don't have the words and you don't have the understanding of your emotions. So you embody that, right? So the 2-year-old falls out or does whatever. And I would say, stop, take a deep breath, take a deep breath. Years later, I remember one time being so mad about something like that I'm having, and my son is like, Mom, take a deep breath. And it was that landed with them and stuck with them. And it was something so little. And so the small things can really make a difference. So I like hearing that, we all are trying our part to do it for our kids. So our time, we always hate that our time goes by so fast, Royce. We like to leave the people with a little something. And I heard you say, we heard you say that meditation was something that you really find support in and that you practice. What are some other practices that you do? And what are some books that you're reading? I typed up a couple. I heard The Secret and Richest Man in Babylon. But for yourself, what are some books, podcasts, music, and practices you do to keep yourself grounded and centered?
Practices. So I'm an early riser. So what I'll do is I'll wake up and do 30 minutes of yoga. Then I'll do 20 minutes of breath work and then 20 minutes of meditation. And that gives my day a foundation. And from there, I'll come downstairs, have some tea, and I'll open up my devotional. And I'll read through a few scriptures just to connect with the source. And then I'll journal, and there's a journal format that has really supported me. It's what are my thoughts, right? And I'll just jot down my thoughts. What are my emotions? And I'll jot down my emotions. Then what are my sensations right now? Right. So I'll tune into my body and understand and listen to what it's feeling, right? What my body is experiencing. And then what are my fears? So I'll jot down my fears and understand what's any resistance within me at that moment. And then lastly, what's my affirmation for today? And that shifts my mindset into affirming, the changes that I want to see, that I want to embody, throughout my days. And that's how I usually start it. And I'll return to my practice in the evening and I'll write down 10 gratitudes. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 10, and go through one by one, just a sentence. I'm grateful for this. I'm immensely, appreciative of this. Go through that. Then I'll go through my practice again. And what the practice I specifically do varies based on what season I'm in. So at one point it was all about mindfulness and embodying a deeper sense of presence, but right now I'm locked in. So I'm more so visualizing a higher level of success, so it's just about attuning to the season I'm in. And then books, I'm reading this book called Nonviolent Communication. Have you heard of that? You read it?
Yeah, Marshall Rosenberg.
Yeah.
I bring it up quite a bit, but isn't it a great book?
It's incredible. It's absolutely phenomenal. And I recently did a
Mine in now.
It's like, let me add to the list.
I recently did a Vipassana meditation course, a 10-day silent meditation retreat. And on the 10th day, I finally got to meet my cohort, and one of the people suggested that book, and it took me a minute to open it up because I was reading something else. But once I finally did, it really, started to shift my language. It started to allow me to understand and honor my own needs and values, and to listen for that within others,
Right.
without evaluating them, without diagnosing anything. So that has been powerful. And as far as you said, music,
Yeah, music podcast.
I'm definitely on this Kendrick
Ah,
Lamar.
yes,
um,
because
yeah,
All
and
day, all
you know,
day. That's my boy.
yeah. I'm loving everything that Kendrick is doing as of late, and I've also been listening to a lot of oldies, introducing my daughter and son into, like Donnell Jones, Aaliyah, Sade, um, uh, uh, Lauryn Hill, just a lot of these classics, Stevie Wonder,
When
and I got a working playlist. I named it Soul Food, and it's just,
oh, I love that.
they're hearing, so many different incredible artists, that are our people, for the
the,
first time. So
my first thought with the music, because I've transitioned to slower tunes, and what I found was that the frequencies and the vibrations of the music is different.
Exactly.
The energy that's put into the music is different.
Right.
And so I have sensed that even more. Yeah, thank you for breaking down the book too. I just got it. Like, I think communication is everything, and I'm constantly reminded that daily. So
And that's such a good book.
yeah, it's phenomenal.
Thank you for sharing that. Do you mind if we do a newsletter every month? It's coming out this week, Wednesday. And we always share mindfulness tips and mindfulness practices. And I would love to drop in the journaling. And either I'll do it this month or next month. But I wrote down how you journal. Are you okay for me to share that out to our community as a possible format for them to journal? Because I really like how it's like laid out and kind of explores every part of our being. I think that's a great practice.
Yes, absolutely. I would love to see it too.
Yes, we'll put you on that list and we'll have you come back for sure. I've been reading, Wes, I'll share my book and then I'll pass it to you. And I don't know if I shared it last time, but The Heaven and Earth Grocery Store by James McBride. And I really like him. I've read him before. His mother is Jewish and his father is African American. And the first book I read that he wrote, and I think the first book he wrote, was The Color of Water. And I think all of her kids, I can't remember if there are 4 or 6 of them, but they are all pretty successful. And they would ask, what color is God? And she one day let water come out of a faucet, and you see this water, that's the color of God. Now it's such a good book. But this book was so good. And in the end of it, the main character, there are many characters, but the main character is a young man with disability. And there are 2 characters, and that's not the center of the book. But the end of it, the author explains how when he was 19, he worked at a disability camp in the 70s and how it shaped Wes. It's just what you're talking about. Now I have chills because it's all coming together. And Wes and I didn't even talk about this, but it shaped his perception and his life. Kind of what you're speaking to, Andrew. It just gave him this lens of humanity that he said before diversity was a thing, and inclusivity and accessibility. This camp embodied all of that. And the way he integrated it into his book is it wasn't like, oh, here's a disabled person and blah, 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 blah. It was just a part of this beautiful story. And the way the story ended was beautifully done. And when I finished it here, I was like, oh my God, this book needs to be a highlight. So this is what I just finished reading, everyone. And yeah, I've been listening to easeful music. I need quiet in my life. So anytime I could get in the garden and be outside, anytime I could come in, I just like the quiet stillness. What about you, Wes? What are you listening to? What are you into?
I love it. Well, actually, I just downloaded both of these books you two suggested, so I'm gonna be listening to them this week. Honestly, I kind of, I like what Roy said about like being in certain seasons, and I think I'm in a season of growth. My organization right now just finished a cohort, so kind of been hands-on that to see how we can scale it, but really getting more intentional about being involved. So I've been listening, going back to my podcast, How I Built This, to listen more from founders that are pretty successful and learning more from their journeys. Of course, I won't, no pun intended, but I definitely tap into all the Black founders on there first. And so, but the Uncle Nearest story with is something that's really been kind of put something under me, like really just hearing it. I probably listened to it like 3 or 4 times, like in the last 2 weeks. I don't know. And so that's kind of where I've been lately, is trying to find others' journeys. I don't think I'm at my like ceiling or whatever, but I do see more. And so for me to learn, I'm trying to learn from people that's already expanded. So these books too will probably help me when we're talking about growth and everything. So
this is wonderful. Royce, where can the people find you?
So I'm off of social media right now.
I saw. I'm good for you though.
Break. I do that, but usually Royce Andrews Porter on IG. But yeah, there's a lot of powerful things coming. We have a team working on our digital app right now. A lot of partnerships in the works, but I'm grateful to be here. There's a book I want to share before we wrap. I read this really powerful book called The Keys to the Kingdom last year. Are y'all familiar with that? Have y'all heard of that? Okay, it's a fictional book by this author, Alison Armstrong. And it's basically a story of a younger woman who's on the brink of going through divorce. And she meets an elderly woman in a yoga class. And in that interaction, the elderly woman becomes a mentor to this younger woman. And the reason why is because the elderly woman she comes from 10 generations of women who've studied men. And they've developed this wisdom and knowledge about men's needs and the phases of men's lives and how our priorities change. So they go on a beautiful journey, and it really transforms the woman's relationship to her husband and gives her the language to tune into men in an authentic way that honors us and allows us to feel celebrated and affirmed instead of demanding and discouraging or criticizing.
Oh, I love that. I wrote that down.
Just bought it.
You have got to hear a little less money, but more knowledge coming, right?
I mean, honestly, I needed some motivation, and so this has just motivated me. I love to learn from people, and Royce, I've learned a lot from you today, and I'm truly grateful. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can't wait to come to one of these tea events. I'm telling you, I'm gonna hit the city. I'm through there. I'm coming.
I'm ready to bring Royce. Like, you're gonna come to Pittsburgh, Kansas City, LA, somewhere. Like, I would love to have you come down. That would be an amazing experience to have.
Yes.
So
yes, I would.
Don't be a stranger, please.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's do this again.
All right.
Thank you so much. Thank everybody for watching. We're definitely being. Stay tuned. Right. Next month.
Thank you for joining us and listening to the podcast. If you would like more information on the guests and the stories that you've heard today, and to hear stories from others, subscribe to the podcast.
We also invite you to subscribe to Open Up Pittsburgh's newsletter, as well as our YouTube channel. We want you all to take care, and remember to make your own stories. This is April. Peace.